Most fantasy stories promise escape, stronger powers, greater freedom, a world waiting to be conquered. Sandmancer of the Scorched Desert does the opposite. It tells a story where freedom is never guaranteed, where survival is not heroic, and where the world itself refuses to bend around the protagonist. And that difference starts with the author. Sandmancer of the Scorched Desert is written by Wu Gak, an author best known for Legend of the Northern Blade. Rather than focusing on spectacle, Wu Gak consistently writes stories built around constraint. His worlds are not open playgrounds. They are structures, political, social, or environmental, designed to limit movement, choice, and freedom. This matters because Sandmancer doesn't feel like an isolated experiment. It feels like a continuation of a philosophy, not in plot, but in pressure. In Legend of the Northern Blade, the Central Plains represent control through people, rules, organizations, hierarchy, reputation. Freedom is restricted by human systems. In Sandmancer of the Scorched Desert, that restriction takes a different form. The desert has no hierarchy, no law, no ideology. It doesn't judge you. It doesn't oppose you personally. It simply exists. And in both stories, the result is the same. The world denies freedom by default. Wu Gak doesn't write environments where freedom is earned. He writes environments where freedom must be endured or abandoned entirely. What separates these spaces is not cruelty, but indifference. The Central Plains restrict you because someone benefits from that control. The desert restricts you simply because it does not care. There is no authority to challenge, no ideology to escape, only distance, exposure, and time. Living in such an environment changes the way people think. It slows decisions. It forces patience. And it teaches that resistance often costs more than adaptation. What's striking is that Sandmancer initially resists one of fantasy's oldest habits: expansion. Most stories grow outward. Bigger maps, more factions, stronger enemies, new territories. Sandmancer begins by doing the opposite. The world does not open. It tightens. At first, progress does not come from discovering more space, but from learning how little space you can survive within. This refusal of immediate expansion reshapes tension. There is no promise of a wider horizon, only the question of how long you can last before the world finally allows you to move. Most fantasy worlds are backgrounds. In Sandmancer, the desert is active, not as a villain, not as a challenge to overcome once, but as a constant presence. It defines movement, it defines scarcity, it defines risk. And slowly, the protagonist stops feeling like a character moving through the desert and starts feeling like an extension of it. Control replaces comfort. Precision replaces power. Survival replaces victory. Very few stories attempt this, and even fewer commit to it fully. When the environment takes that much space, individual identity begins to shift. In this kind of world, identity is not something you assert. It is something that erodes. Skills matter more than dreams. Rhythm matters more than resolve. The desert does not care about your past, and it does not reward your intent. Names matter less. Intentions matter less. Only function remains. The desert does not respond to who you are. It responds only to what you do. Over time, the protagonist is not defined by ambition or desire, but by calibration. How much to move, when to stop, what to risk. The world is no longer something to overcome. It is something to align with. Sandmancer does something quietly radical. It refuses to comfort the reader. There is no stable refuge, no true safe zone, no lasting relief. Progress doesn't mean domination. It means reducing losses. Power isn't used to reshape the world. It's used to survive within it. This creates a tone that feels dry, restrained, and deliberate. And that tone mirrors the environment itself. The story does not reward impatience. It demands endurance. This is why Sandmancer can feel uncomfortable to read. Not because it is violent, not because it is bleak, but because it does not reassure. The story refuses to tell you that everything will be fine. It refuses to promise catharsis on schedule. And it never pretends that effort guarantees reward. In Sandmancer, meaning is not granted. It is survived long enough to be noticed. One of the most impressive aspects of Sandmancer is its discipline. There are no wasted elements. No character exists just to fill space. No object is introduced without purpose. No detail is purely decorative. If something is mentioned, it carries a promise. And the story keeps that promise. Not immediately, but inevitably. The narrative doesn't distract you. It prepares you. This restraint makes the world feel harsher, but also more believable. Just like the desert itself. The desert does not only shape movement, it shapes emotion. In a place where survival never stops, expressing feeling becomes a risk. Grief slows action. Attachment creates vulnerability. Emotion demands energy that the environment does not offer. As a result, people grow restrained. Speech becomes minimal. Reactions become practical. And because of that, when emotion finally emerges, it stands out. Not as spectacle, but as proof that something human has survived the erosion. What makes Sandmancer of the Scorched Desert truly powerful is not the scale of its world, but the way that world shapes the people inside it. The desert does not allow excess, not of movement, not of words, not of emotion. In a place where survival is constant, there's little room for expression. Feelings become restrained, interactions become practical. Humanity dries out, slowly, out of necessity. And that is precisely why, as the story unfolds, when emotion finally appears, it matters. It feels earned, it feels fragile, and it feels real. Sandmancer is not just a story set in a desert, it is a story where the desert rewrites the inner life of its characters. That is why Sandmancer lingers. Because it does not ask what kind of hero you want to be. It asks a quieter question. What parts of yourself would you keep when the world gives you nothing extra? And it is in that quiet transformation, more than in power or spectacle, that the story reveals its true strength.